a invitar a nuestro próximo speaker, charlistas, señor Jan Wiener. Jan es premiado ambientalista que nos hablará sobre el estado de los manglares en la Hispaniola. Es premio Goldman Environmental Prize, uno de los premios más prestigiosos del mundo, si no el más prestigioso. Premio Condé Nast, premio Wiener Fund for Nature, premio Eric Ekman. Ha sido co-investigador para el Ministerio de Medio Ambiente de Haití, de la ONU, USAID, IDB, de NOAA y OAS, biólogo de la University of Bridgeport en Connecticut y creador de la Fundación para la Protección de Biodiversidad Marina. Así que, por favor, señor.
Buenos dias. I apologize that this will be in English. I can do it in Creole, French, or English, but my Spanish is not good enough yet.
Me disculpo porque vamos a tener que hablar en inglés. Les podría hablar en creol o francés o inglés, pero mi español no es muy bueno.
Thank you to everyone for inviting me here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to show what's going on in Haiti. I know that there's a lot of bad press on what's going on in Haiti a lot of the time, but there are also some good things that are happening. So my name is... Oh, sorry.
Gracias por invitarme a hablar aquí. Ha habido mucha mala prensa alrededor de lo que pasa en Haití, pero hay muchas cosas positivas también que podemos mencionar.
So I'm Jean Wiener. I'm the director of the Fondation pour la Protection de la Biodiversité Marine in Haiti.
Yo soy Jan Wiener y soy director de la Fundación de Protección para la Biodiversidad Marina en Haití.
And we've been in operation in Haiti now for about 23 years, and we're one of Haiti's oldest environmental groups.
Hemos estado trabajando en Haití por 23 años. Es uno de los grupos más antiguos del medio ambiente en Haití.
So I'd like to give you just a quick presentation on what we do, a presentation on one of the activities that we're undertaking with TNC and USAID in northeastern Haiti, and then a little bit on Haiti's mangrove situation.
Vamos a hablar un poco de lo que estamos haciendo en el noreste de Haití con la USAID.
We were officially recognized in 1995.
Fuimos reconocidos oficialmente en 1995.
We're the first organization to really work on coastal and marine issues in Haiti.
Fuimos la primera organización que primero trabajó en costas marinas en Haití.
And we are trying to undertake a holistic approach, which means we have to tackle the social issues, the environmental issues, the public sector issues, and everything together.
Ponemos atención holística al problema desde el sector privado, desde la parte social, de la parte natural, todo junto.
Nationally, we work with fishermen, agricultural groups, youth groups, local associations, national government, and tourism agencies.
A nivel nacional trabajamos con los jóvenes, con los agricultores, con las asociaciones locales, los miembros del gobierno y ministros y el sector turístico.
And internationally with organizations which were just mentioned like USAID, the IDB, PNUD, Bar Foundation, etc.
Y internacionalmente trabajamos con la USAID, el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo y otras organizaciones.
So some of the work that we do in terms of activities with mangroves, as you know, mangroves are very important in terms of protecting coastal zones from storm surges.
Trabajamos también con los manglares, que son muy importantes en las zonas costeras, particularmente en escenarios de alta marea.
That they prevent sediments from smothering coral reefs, which are also very important along those lines.
Previenen que los sedimentos entren a los arrecifes de coral.
They serve as nurseries for fisheries.
Son el lugar en el que los peces se desarrollan y nacen y crecen.
They maintain a huge amount of biodiversity.
Y mantienen una biodiversidad amplísima.
And also these days, with everyone's interest in climate change, they also sequester and store a lot of carbon.
Y retienen mucho carbono en estos días en que la gente se preocupa mucho por el cambio climático.
This way or that way. Go back. So one of the activities we undertake also is working with coral reefs.
También trabajamos con arrecifes de coral, es otra de nuestras actividades.
Oftentimes they're strung out like this on ropes so that we can make more and then transplant them onto the reefs.
Así comenzamos a cultivarlos en cuerdas y luego los trasplantamos en los arrecifes.
I know that a lot of institutions are doing that in the Dominican Republic already, such as the Punta Cana Group and CEBSE and others, but we're the first to try this in Haiti, and this is to show that we're really trying to help protect our environment.
Otras instituciones dominicanas están trabajando haciendo lo mismo. Nosotros comenzamos todo el proceso desde Haití.
So some of the issues that we're dealing with in Haiti, overfishing,
Tenemos en Haití una sobrepesca, un problema de sobrepesca.
the cutting of mangroves for charcoal and for fuel wood,
El corte de manglares para hacer carbón y otras actividades.
the exploitation of coral reefs for construction and for export, which is illegal,
La exportación de arrecifes de coral para construcción y exportación.
construction in fragile coastal zones,
La construcción en las zonas costeras frágiles
and pollution and erosion and sedimentation.
y la contaminación, erosión y sedimentación de los suelos.
Some of the research that we're undertaking is on fisheries resources.
Estamos produciendo recursos para pesca.
And we've done reports also on the size of remaining mangroves and ecosystem services that are remaining for a lot of our resources.
Y reportamos el estado de los manglares.
Ecosystem services.
Y damos servicios de ecosistema, de reporte de ecosistema.
One of the biggest things we need to do is to work more with local and central government.
Una de las mayores actividades que tenemos que hacer es trabajar con las personas locales y el gobierno central.
Because they are the ones who are going to provide the enforcement that we need to be able to continue with our activities.
Porque son los que nos proveen el poder, la fuerza que necesitamos para llevar a cabo estas actividades.
So some of the activities that we're undertaking also to help produce more jobs, to help relieve some of the pressures on the resources is apiculture, production of honey.
Una de las actividades que estamos produciendo para generar más puestos de empleos son agricultura, la producción de miel.
Plant nurseries for both mangroves and for fruit trees.
El cultivo de plantas, tanto manglares como otras variedades.
We are now undertaking the coral activities to regrow the corals, and we hope to get into the production of algae and seaweed for various chemicals.
Estamos produciendo coral, algas y algas marinas también para fines de reproducción.
Should I point there? Extremely important for us also is working with school children, working with the local communities, because without them we can't do anything and we can't move forward with anything.
Trabajamos con los niños y las comunidades locales porque sin ellos no podemos hacer mucho también.
So we work on educational activities, community development, association building, and hopefully towards the end be able to provide alternatives to what people are doing to damage the environment.
Así que trabajamos en actividades educativas, desarrollo comunitario, la construcción de asociaciones y deseamos ser capaces pronto de proveer alternativas para que las personas dejen de hacer lo que están haciendo al medio ambiente.
I'll get into this in the next section, but we're working now on the National Park of the Three Bays, which we helped the government declare in early 2014.
Trabajamos en el Parque Nacional, the Three Bays, desde el 2014.
2014,
desde
last year.
2014 también.
And this is 75,000 hectares of marine protected area and terrestrial area in the northeast of Haiti.
75,000 hectáreas en el noreste haitiano, de área marina protegida.
And this is the border with the Dominican Republic.
Esa es la línea divisoria entre República Dominicana y Haití.
And the park boundaries, which go out into the national seas.
Y esos son los límites del Parque Nacional Acuático.
This is some of the resource assessments. So in green here we have,
Esa es parte de nuestros recursos, nuestro cálculo de recursos, lo que se ve en verde.
In green here, we have Haiti's second largest mangrove area, which is about 5,500 hectares,
Es la zona poblada de manglares, la segunda más grande de Haití,
located in, we call it Caracol Bay,
localizada en la bahía del Caracol.
and the yellow is seagrasses and the red is coral reef.
Lo amarillo es hierba marina y lo rojo es arrecifes de coral.
We'll go on. Just go into the CMBP project now. We're undertaking right now a project called the CMBP, which is the Caribbean Marine Biodiversity Program, which has 4 main sites in the Caribbean, one in Haiti, one in the Dominican Republic, one in Jamaica, and another one in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Este es el proyecto del Programa para la Conservación de la Biodiversidad Marina del Caribe. Tiene, how many sites? 5 sites.
4 sites.
Cuatro oficinas, una en Haití, una en República Dominicana, one in Barbados,
Jamaica,
Jamaica
and Grenadines.
y las Granadinas.
And our partner organization in the Dominican Republic is SEBSE, working in Samana Bay and the north of the Dominican Republic.
En República Dominicana tenemos la institución SEBSE localizada en Samaná, en la bahía de Samaná.
So it's a 5-year project for $12.5 million.
Es un proyecto de 5 años y de 12 millones y medio de dólares.
It's in 4 regions of the Caribbean, as I said.
Tiene esos 4 puntos del Caribe que mencionamos.
And a good part of the financing is going to be given to local partner NGOs in order to undertake activities for the protection of marine resources.
Y una buena parte del capital va a ser destinada a organizaciones no gubernamentales de esas oficinas regionales que mencionamos.
And the main objectives of the project are to help protect and manage local biodiversity and the local fisheries.
La meta del proyecto es ayudar a proteger la biodiversidad local y la industria de los pescadores locales también.
So the long-term objectives are to create a successful and beneficial national marine park management system.
Estos proyectos de largo plazo son proteger,
beneficial management system for marine areas.
crear una gerencia positiva de los recursos marinos.
To undertake marine spatial planning, which is where you zone different areas for fishing, for tourism, for management.
Llevar a cabo una planificación de zonas marinas, esto es, zonificar áreas designadas para pesca y turismo, para manejo y protección.
To make better the fisheries in these different communities,
Mejorar las condiciones de los pescadores en estas comunidades.
and to have better governance at all levels, from the fishermen all the way up to the ministerial level of these protected areas.
Y que haya mejor administración de estas áreas protegidas desde los pescadores hasta los gobiernos locales.
So here are the sites again, in Jamaica, in
Tenemos
Haiti,
oficinas en Jamaica, Haití,
Dominican Republic,
República Dominicana
and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
y las Granadinas, San Vicente en las Granadinas.
In yellow are the partner sites, so Montecristi also,
En amarillo tenemos a nuestros socios
and the manglares in, I forgot what it is, the Cana National Park? The Cana National Park?
en La Gina National
La Gina National
Parque
Park.
Nacional La Gina
And down in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
y en San Vicente, en las Granadinas.
So again, all of the partners, FOPROBIM in Haiti, Sustainable Grenadines in the Grenadines, SEBSE, Caribbean Coastal Area Management in Jamaica, and CaribSave, along with Nature Conservancy and USAID.
Aquí tenemos a todos los asociados.
And it's the same marine protected area.
Esa es el área protegida que mencionamos anteriormente.
So regionally in the Caribbean, we're trying to implement activities with the Caribbean Challenge in Haiti, which is a plan to preserve 20% of each country's coastal and marine area by 2020.
Tenemos el programa en Haití, el desafío caribeño, que se propone preservar el 20% de las áreas marinas de Haití para el 2020.
There is what would the translation be? The Biodiversity
Fondos,
Fund for the Caribbean.
sí, tenemos el programa de los fondos para la biodiversidad del Caribe.
and a regional network of practitioners in coastal and marine sciences.
Y la red regional de practicantes
And nationally increase our protected areas,
y el incremento nacional de las áreas protegidas,
develop a national protected areas funding agency,
desarrollar una agencia de áreas protegidas nacionales,
develop a national action plan to protect the fisheries,
desarrollar un plan de acción nacional para proteger a los pescadores,
and what we discussed before, the marine spatial planning and getting actors involved in all these activities.
Y lo que discutimos antes, la planificación marina e involucrar a personas en estas actividades.
y otra lista de actividades,
Along with an action plan for the national park.
junto con un plan de acción para los parques nacionales.
So in 2000, Fort Beam also came up with a plan after doing site research to develop a system of protected areas for Haiti.
En el año 2000 creamos un plan para desarrollar para proteger áreas protegidas y desarrollarlas en Haití.
So this area was designated in 2013, and this one, which is the national park bordering Montecristi, in 2014.
En 2013 desarrollamos esta área del sur y en el 2014 la zona del norte señalada.
So some of our activities, again, replanting mangroves in a lot of areas,
Replantamos manglares en esas zonas,
trying to engage potentially in ecotourism in some of these areas, whether it's kayaking or scuba diving or similar activities,
incentivamos el ecoturismo en estas áreas, ya sea de kayaking o buceo,
and coordinating with various projects, including the Ministry of Environment, the IDB, and others,
y
World
coordinamos
Bank.
con diferentes proyectos, somos también socios coordinadores de esos diferentes proyectos.
So for Haiti, we undertook an assessment in 2014 of what remains of our mangroves.
En Haití hicimos un cálculo de lo que queda de nuestros manglares en el 2014.
And we still have fairly large areas in the northeast,
Todavía tenemos grandes zonas en el noreste,
areas around La Gonave Island in the middle,
áreas alrededor de Gonaïve
and in the north and south parts of the southern peninsula.
y al norte y sur de la península del sur.
So, as you've all heard and probably know already, Haiti's heavily deforested, and we are down to estimates now vary from 3 to 1% of our remaining forest.
Como ya saben, Haití está severamente deforestada y tenemos todavía de un 1 a un 3% de nuestra área cubierta de foresta solamente.
And as was stated before by some of our presenters and our master of ceremonies, also a lot of this deforestation took place in colonial times as well as currently, because Haiti does not have sufficient fuel capacity to supply its local populations.
Como decía Mario anteriormente, parte de esa deforestación tuvo lugar en los tiempos coloniales y posteriormente también tuvo lugar después porque en Haití hay poco acceso a combustible, a alternativas de combustible.
So charcoal is used for the vast majority of Haiti's fuel needs, including for bakeries, for dry cleaners, and especially for cooking.
En Haití se usa el carbón para todas las necesidades de combustible, para también el lavado en seco, para cocinar y otras actividades.
So we need to find an alternative for this, or else there's no other way to come out of the dependence on charcoal for Haiti.
Así que necesitamos encontrar una alternativa para esto, o no podremos dejar de ser dependientes del carbón en Haití.
Just to go back a little bit, the size of the coverage, about 5,000 hectares in the north, about 2,000 in the south, and then our total...
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Tenemos 5,000 hectáreas en el norte y 2,000 hectáreas en el sur.
South. So our main areas, we end up with a total of about 20,500 hectares of mangroves remaining in Haiti.
En total tenemos 20,000 hectáreas de manglares en Haití.
And a lot of this is going fast. As the population pressures increase, the pressures on the resources also
Y
increase.
están desapareciendo rápidamente. A medida que la presión económica aumenta, también disminuyen estos recursos.
So we had done a bit of a study and... Did I lose it? Okay. So we had done a study and found that by far the vast majority of mangroves are the red mangroves, followed by black and then white.
La mayor parte de los manglares son los rojos, después le siguen los negros y luego los blancos.
And there are laws in Haiti, including another law we helped the government pass in 2013,
Tenemos leyes en Haití, tenemos una que se pasó en 2013,
and it's the regulation of mangroves. No one in Haiti now is allowed to cut mangroves for any reason whatsoever, or build within them, or even fish within mangrove areas anymore.
nadie puede cortar ya legalmente manglares o pescar en manglares o utilizarlos para cualquier uso.
However, we have the law, but
Tenemos la ley, pero
enforcing it is a whole other issue, especially in a country with weak governance, such as in Haiti's case.
Pero llevarla a cabo, hacerla valer es muy difícil, especialmente en nuestro sistema.
Because you're not only dealing with issues of law enforcement, but you're also dealing with people's direct livelihoods.
No es solamente un asunto de hacer valer la ley, sino que también tenemos que considerar que para mucha gente es su única fuente de recursos.
A lot of people are making their livings from charcoal production, and I can no sooner ask anybody in this room who has a job to leave their job and not give them an alternative.
Mucha gente vive del carbón y es como pedirle a muchas aquí en la audiencia que dejen sus trabajos cuando pedimos a estas personas que dejen de cortar manglares.
So this is the main issue that we're combating,
Esto es lo principal que estamos combatiendo.
and trying to find these alternatives for people who make, not even a couple of US dollars a day, maybe a dollar a day.
Esta gente haciendo esto gana probablemente $1 al día y estamos tratando de evitarlo.
So replanting is one of the activities we undertake with the local communities, and it's all fine and good.
Hacemos la replantación con las comunidades locales y hasta ahora está muy bien.
But the thought of replanting just so that somebody else can come and cut it down at another point
Pero
is
replantar para que otro venga y lo corte más adelante es
is
como
not
hacer algo que no tiene sentido,
is not a way to run or make anything sustainable.
no es sostenible.
So we need to work with the local communities, provide them with the options, and do reforestation of mangroves and other trees at the same time. But you have to provide the options.
Tenemos que trabajar con las comunidades locales, ayudarlos a ellos a replantar, pero tenemos que darles opciones económicas.
You have to undertake educational activities and work with the local people.
Educación y lidiar con las personas locales.
So some of the issues that we're having is that the mangroves are open access, which means that anybody can have access to them and use them for anything that they need.
Las dificultades que tenemos es que los manglares son de fácil acceso, cualquiera puede llegar a un manglar y hacer lo que quiera hacer.
Although we have the laws right now, enforcement is a major issue.
Aunque tengamos la ley, al hacer cumplir la ley es un elemento mayor, una dificultad mayor.
And that leads to, there's also no functioning financial mechanism, and that also leads to the inability to protect the mangroves.
Hay un mecanismo financiero que no funciona muy bien y nos impide también proteger mejor los manglares.
So in Haiti, at least, we need to ensure that the mangroves are integrated into national protected areas.
Tenemos que asegurarnos de que los manglares en Haití estén integrados a las áreas protegidas.
We need to update our laws,
Tenemos que actualizar nuestras leyes,
ensure that discussions revolving around education of the local populations in terms of the importance of the mangroves is discussed.
tenemos que discutir con las poblaciones locales acerca de la importancia de los manglares.
And develop mechanisms to ensure the long-term viability of mangrove management, both inside and outside of protected areas.
Y desarrollar mecanismos para
Both inside and outside of protected areas.
para proteger, para proteger los manglares dentro y fuera de las áreas protegidas.
So most importantly, the last one is we need to engage in seeking alternative and sustainable and environmentally friendly alternatives for the local population.
Tenemos que buscar alternativas sostenibles para las poblaciones locales y los productores locales de carbón.
And as our moderator said also, I believe, since my Spanish isn't so good, but I'll paraphrase, how do you place the value or make the value of a tree?
Como decía Mario al principio, levantaba la pregunta, ¿cómo determinamos el valor de un árbol?
And we know that people are hungry, and I don't know how many of you have been hungry, and I don't mean hungry because you missed lunch. I mean hungry because you've missed a few days of eating and you haven't been eating enough for weeks.
Sabemos que la gente tiene hambre y no sé cuántos de ustedes han tenido hambre en algún momento. Y no solo el hambre que sale de que no hemos comido todavía, sino el hambre de no comer permanentemente.
Because I've discussed this with other friends also in Haiti who are in the environmental sector, and we are all in agreement
Hemos discutido esto en Haití y todos estamos de acuerdo
that we have to eat, our families have to eat,
que tenemos que comer y nuestras familias también.
and if there was one mangrove tree remaining in the forest, and it was the only way to feed our families, we would take it down with our teeth if we had to
si
feed our
hubiera
family.
un solo árbol de manglar levantado en la foresta y no tuviéramos más nada que comer, lo quitaríamos hasta con los dientes.
So going around and saying, you're a bad person, you shouldn't be doing this, screaming at people that you shouldn't cut mangroves, that you shouldn't be fishing, that you shouldn't be doing this or that, when they have families to feed, is no way to make sure that anything is sustainable, that it's environmentally friendly, or that you're actually engaged in protecting and meeting the needs of people.
Así que salir a decirles a ellos que son malos, que no corten los manglares y no darles alternativas, pues no funciona.
As I like to say, there are no hungry conservationists. There is no way you are going to protect a resource if you are hungry and it's a way to feed yourself or your family.
No hay conservacionistas hambrientos, no hay forma con hambre de proteger el medio ambiente.
So we can't go around and alienate charcoal producers, for example, in Haiti. You have to bring them in, you have to work with them.
No podemos alienarnos, tenemos que integrarlos y trabajar con ellos.
Even if they're doing something which is now completely and clearly illegal.
Aun si hacen algo que es ahora mismo completamente y claramente ilegal.
But until you can provide an alternative,
Pero hasta que podamos proveer una alternativa,
you can't chastise the person and force them to leave what they're doing.
no podemos forzarlos a dejar lo que están haciendo.
So that goes for the vast majority of resources that are being lost in a lot of places. They need to find alternatives and sustainable alternatives.
Tenemos que encontrar alternativas que sean sostenibles.
And right now in Haiti, we're trying to work on the apiculture, on the seaweed culture, on shellfish, and other environmentally friendly and sustainable activities.
Estamos trabajando en apicultura y en agriculture too.
Some agriculture and seaweed farming, shellfish.
Las granjas de algas marinas y la pesca como alternativas.
We're also working with partners in the Dominican Republic. Up north, we're working with Agrofrontera.
Trabajamos con Agrofrontera en República Dominicana.
And trying to see how we can manage the resources.
Tratando de ver cómo manejar estos recursos.
There are a lot of cases in which Haitian fishermen up north enter Dominican waters near Montecristi and the Siete Hermanos.
Tenemos muchos casos de pescadores haitianos que entran a aguas territoriales dominicanas.
And their boats are taken, they're beaten, they're thrown in jail, and then sent back to Haiti.
Y son capturados y golpeados y puestos en la cárcel y luego deportados a Haití.
However,
De todas formas,
Dominicans also go into Haitian waters to fish and to take the resources in Haiti.
los dominicanos también cruzan Haití a tomar los recursos de las aguas territoriales haitianas.
And because Haiti does not have any type of law enforcement or way to stop this,
Y como en Haití no hay forma de detener esto,
the oceans are free for the Dominicans to come in and take resources and then return
los
peacefully.
océanos están abiertos y los dominicanos entran y toman los recursos y se devuelven.
So we're working, for charcoal, it's not just Haitians coming over. It's one island, as was said, it's one island, and there's a lot of dynamics
Así que
going back and forth.
No es solo que los haitianos entran por el carbón, sino que también hay un desbalance de dominicanos entrando a Haití por el pescado. Es un asunto multilateral.
And hence why we're here, and thank you again, Jesus, for inviting me, because this is exactly what we're trying to get a handle on.
Y por eso estoy aquí y les agradezco por invitarme y estamos aquí trabajando. I'm sorry, my translation hasn't been good enough.
That's fine. Working together. It's up to you if you have time. There's a video if you want.
Video ahora.
It's 5 minutes long.
5
It's up to you.
minutos.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you. I was born and raised in Haiti. Of course, living on a Caribbean island nation, I loved going to the beach with my parents every weekend, and I'd spend my entire day in the water. I finished my studies at university in the States, and I realized that there was no one taking care of the coastal and marine environment in Haiti. Went back and saw increased pollution. Most of the fish were gone. Coral reefs were degrading. The ministries, the government, nobody was taking care of the coastal and marine environment. If we've compromised our environmental health, our environmental security, there's no way we can move forward socially or economically or in any other way. So a friend of mine recommended, after seeing that I was very interested, that I start my own organization. That was in 1992. To this date, believe it or not, Caribbean island nation, we're still the only institution after 23 years that does what we do, a holistic approach to coastal and marine management. A lot of these areas, of course, because they're coastal communities, are highly vulnerable to climate change. A lot of the farmers in certain areas are having big issues with not being able to time the planting of their crops anymore. In 2014, in northern Haiti, was a total disaster because there was no rain. Yet, when the rains do come, and at the wrong time, it's a total washout, it's a flood. The areas we're working, reforestation of mangroves, trying to protect them, trying to find alternative sources of energy generation, especially in terms of the deforestation related to terrestrial and mangrove ecosystems. I think those are key to being able to mitigate some of the effects for Haiti. CEPF has helped us engage local community groups, both near Haiti's lakes and along Haiti's coastal and marine environment, helping us engage these communities in educational activities, as well as rehabilitation of the environment. It has helped us talk to the local communities in order to try to develop with them probably the most critical part of these activities, alternative income generating activities, which means another way to make a living which hopefully is environmentally friendly and sustainable and which won't deplete the resources. And probably some of the biggest outputs has been the creation of 2 marine protected areas in which CEPF helped by keeping us as an organization alive, as well as encouraging this type of development. CEPF's approach in Haiti and in the rest of the Caribbean, I think, is really focusing on some of the smaller environmental groups that may not have access to the huge funding from the huge international donors. That type of approach is critical to keeping the grassroots and the on-the-ground activities really working.